Good morning and welcome to the 2022 Bell Advanced Vertical Robotics Competition presented by the REC Foundation. My name is Bobby Mitchell and I am so excited to be your host for this year's kickoff. We'll be hearing this morning from some of the staff that has been hard at work bringing you this year's competition, seeing some of the demos of the new technology that is in your registration kit, and of course, closing with the moment that you've all been waiting for, the reveal of the 2022 Bell AVR game, the Emergency Firefighting Challenge. First up, to help kick off the season, let's hear a word from the competition's founding sponsor, Bell.
Hello, my name is Ron Olson. I'm a Senior Tech Fellow Engineer at Bell, and I have had the great privilege of working with many Bell engineers and our partnership engineers to create and develop this competition over the past 5 years. I say this every year, but I think this year's Firefighting Challenge is by far the most exciting competition that we have ever put together. I know you're going to love it, and I can't wait to see the designs and strategies that you come up with to fight these fires. It's also exciting to share with you for the first time we're holding competition events outside of Texas, having them in Michigan and Washington, D.C. So welcome to all of you who are up north and out east. I want to share with you why Bell has promoted this competition and what the hopes and expectations are for your future for both your education and your career. Just to be straightforward, our long-term goal is to inspire you to pursue a future in STEM, and ultimately, we'd love to have many of you end up at Bell for your career. Having said that, I would like to share with you my own story as to how STEM influenced me starting at the very young age, but especially during my high school years, which ultimately brought me to having a fantastic career at Bell. So giving you a very quick panoramic view of my STEM experiences from childhood into my adulthood, at the age of 5, my dad was fascinated with helicopters, so he built a toy version of a helicopter, which we could drive around in our backyard. That is me sitting in the cockpit imagining that I was a real pilot. And I don't think I was planning my career at that point, but it's pretty cool that I ended up at a company that designs helicopters. Then when I was 12 years old, I got a go-kart, and like any kid, the most fun is taking things apart to see how they work. So I learned a lot about piston engines and how centrifugal clutches work and steering mechanisms. All of these hands-on experiences started me down the path of wanting to know how to design and build things. At age 15, my interests got a little crazy when I decided to build a 10-foot tall unicycle. It is a shock that I lived to tell about it, but aside from all the things that could go wrong and did go wrong, I learned so much about the importance of tolerances and how bad things can get when your chain sprocket isn't perfectly aligned and the chain comes off. So my unicycle turned into a catapult. But somehow I survived and went on to my next fascination, which at 17 years old, I decided to build a hang glider. After many failures and redesigns, I finally got airborne, and again, it was a tremendous learning experience to start understanding the fundamentals of flight and aerodynamics, the importance of where the center of gravity is, and the criticality of keeping the weight as light as possible. Lastly, flash forward about 4 decades later, I'm still intrigued with anything that would take me into the vertical realm. So I learned how to fly a jetovator, which was exhilarating and very fun until I pulled back too far and dropped into the water, which is why they have you wear a helmet. So why am I telling you my life story? Certainly not for you to try any of these crazy things that I did, but I wanted to let you know, and I want you to remember, that what you do in your free time matters. So all of those projects that I did in high school were done in my free time. And you know, we didn't have cell phones and TikTok or any of those other distractions that all of you could get sucked into. But the very fact that you are here today, taking part in the Bell AVR competition, tells me that you are already going down the right path of making the most of your free time. You have an amazing opportunity in the next 10 weeks to pour your free time into learning things that literally could change your future plans and the trajectory of your career path. Like I said in the beginning, our long-term goal is to hopefully bring many of you to Bell sometime in the future. There's a huge demand for STEM talent in the workforce, and you are going to be the ones who can solve the challenges that we haven't even begun to comprehend. To get you even more excited about what some of those challenges look like in the vertical realm at Bell, I want you to watch this video. But before we go to that, I just want to wish you all the very best in your creative endeavors over the next 10 weeks, and I will see you all in November.
Thank you so much, Ron. Next up, please join me in welcoming Dan Manz, CEO of the REC Foundation.
This is Dan Manz, CEO of the Robotics Education and Competition Foundation. It's my pleasure to welcome you to the 2022 Bell Advanced Vertical Robotics Competition presented by the REC Foundation. We're so excited to have you this year. This is the second year that Bell and the REC Foundation have collaborated for this event. You may ask why we're doing this. Well, both at Bell and the REC Foundation, we all realize there's lots of exciting ways to introduce students to STEM. Many traditional robotics competitions use just ground vehicles, or maybe there are just drone competitions. The Bell AVR combines both. What a great way to learn STEM and communication skills. In this competition, there will be 7 different operators. There will be 2 different types of drones and ground vehicles. We think this competition is a unique way to both support the engineering design process and collaboration. Do you realize that Bell has been doing this for 5 years? But this year's competition is the biggest ever. We have students from 9 different states competing this year, and the challenge is more exciting than ever. I know that you are going to have so much fun playing this competition. So again, congratulations for being part of this program, and I can't wait to meet you and see what designs you've come up with. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thanks so much, Dan. Next up, it's time to learn a bit more about the vehicles you'll be building and flying this season. For that, I'm going to send it back to Grant, this time with Noel Brownbeck, lead engineer for the Bell AVR Drone.
Thanks so much, Bobby. My name is Grant Cox, and I'm here with Noel Brownbeck from Bell. And this is a development model of one of our brand new Bell AVR drones. Noel, thank you so much for joining us. Tell me a little bit about this drone. What makes it different than trying to drive a ground robot?
Yeah, so ground robots usually move forward, back, side to side. But with the drone, you're in a 3-dimensional space, so you actually have to worry about going up and down, as well as how the drone is actually tilting in that space.
And so I think most drones operate off of GPS to accomplish all of that. How does this one differ from other drone models?
Yeah, so a typical drone will use GPS to kind of know where it's at in that space. However, since we fly indoors, we don't have access to GPS. So we have to use computer vision software with our Z Mini up here and actually take that and get a outputted GPS signal in our VMC and send that to our flight controller.
That's incredible. Major shout outs to NVIDIA for helping us out with the Jets and Nanas, as well as SparkFun for helping with some of the kitting work. You'll actually be receiving an SD card in your kits preloaded with the firmware that you need in order to get this drone up and running. So speaking of preloaded SD cards and whatnot, I know we've got some returning teams this year who might have competed last year. What makes this drone different from previous years?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of work done to streamline the software process and actually getting it into the air. But for the actual hardware, this is a complete redesign of the drone from the ground up. So when we were redesigning this, we really wanted to develop a platform that you can actually put different sensors or mount different accessories onto as needed. So the bottom plate has a ton of different mounting holes. We added in very thoughtful wiring paths. So that way you can actually run wires from your VMC to the bottom plate as needed, as well as just adding new sensors.
Yep, new sensors, more robustness, rigidity. Major shout outs to our friends at Quad Standard Labs in Austin, Texas for helping with some of the manufacturing and kitting here. So you mentioned new sensors. Tell me about the new sensors that are on this drone.
Yeah, so we have 2 new sensors that are might be relevant for this year's game. One of them is a thermal camera. Could be good for finding hot spots.
Yeah, maybe fires beginning.
Who knows? The other one is going to be actually a laser pointer. And then both of those are going to be on top of a gimbal, which is really just 2 servos, very similar to what teams saw last year, that will allow you to point your laser pointer, your FPV camera, and thermal camera at different objects throughout the field.
Independently of the drone motion.
Yeah, so it'll be more of a ground operator task.
Incredible. I think it's a really cool platform. The engineers have done a great job. Noel, anything else you want to say to the teams?
I am very excited to see what y'all come up with, and I hope you have a lot of fun and enjoy the game.
Excellent. Thanks so much, Noel.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all so much for that. That was some really amazing stuff that we have going on with the drones, but we have a couple other vehicles going on the field, so can you talk about those a little bit?
Totally. As you've heard from a couple people today, one of the core tenets of the Bell AVR competition is that multimodal robotics experience. Robots on the ground and in the air. So we've got a couple additional vehicles in addition to the main AVR drone that teams are going to be working with. First up, I'm excited to introduce the Tello. This is Tello. It is a smaller drone that can actually operate entirely autonomously with the help from our friends at Drone Blocks. So Drone Blocks is a block-based coding app that you can use on your mobile device or desktop. And if this works, let's see, I got a quick thing launched on here. Yep. So it actually will do grid plane navigation and stabilize position hold, again, indoors without GPS. So fly left, fly right. And come back to me. So, excited to see what teams are able to do with this on the field this year. Teams are also going to be using the Sphero Rovers again, as well as the Sphero Minis. Same physical model as teams have used in the past with the Bell AVR competition. However, Bell teams this year are going to be among the first to be using a entirely new version of the Sphero EDU app to control them with a totally overhauled drive controls and driving experience. So, very excited to see, again, what teams are able to bring to the field with this.
Wow, so there is a whole lot of new stuff going on here. How on earth are these teams going to know how to use all of this?
Excellent question. A couple different answers to that question. First off, inside your team kit, all teams should have received a card with some links on it and some more information. First thing that every team should do upon opening their kit is do a full inventory, check to make sure that you have everything, and go to bit.ly/BellAVRKit to let us know if you've received it all or if you need any spare parts. Once you do that, you'll actually receive an access code for free access to the Tello curriculum and getting started guides, again, courtesy of our friends at Drone Blocks. As for the main drone, the assembly guide and software downloads are live now at bellflight.github.io/AVR-2022. It's on the sheet. And don't forget to capitalize the AVR. Plus, of course, to make sure that teams are able to take full advantage of all this technology, this season also marks the launch of BellAVRforum.org. If you need any technical help getting off the ground, Bell staff and some of our other technical experts will be monitoring the forum daily to provide you with official public support. And of course, the best thing about a forum is that it's all community driven. I want to see what crazy solutions you all can come up with for this year's game.
Thank you for all of that new information. It sounds absolutely incredible.
It really is. But come on, Bobby. The vehicles are great and all, but you know the teams watching at home are really just interested in one thing.
I think you might be right about that. Well, we've heard from our sponsors. We've heard about the new technology. I think it's time for the moment that everybody's been waiting for. Grant, are you ready to reveal this year's game?
I am so ready. Let's roll the video, and then we'll come back right here for some questions. Here is the Emergency Firefighting Challenge. Welcome to the 2022 Bell Advanced Vertical Robotics Competition. This year's game is the Emergency Firefighting Challenge, where it's you versus the fire. Bell Valley is burning! A forest fire has started on both sides of the field, and it's up to the Bell Valley Fire Department to clear as many burn sites as possible. The playing field is divided into 2 communities, each with 7 burn sites, connected to each other via fire spread paths. Each 7-student drive team, operating the Bell AVR Drone and its support crew, will have just 5 minutes to fight this quickly spreading fire before Bell Valley goes up in flames. In Phase 1, the fire has already begun to spread into one of the communities. The fire's intensity, or fire score, is represented by windows lighting up on each burn site. Each phase will also begin with a hotspot on one of the buildings heating up, signaling that a fire will start soon. The AVR drone will need to use thermal sensors to detect and clear this hotspot in time, or else its building will erupt into a maximum fire score. There are 3 ways that the AVR drone can put out fires: by shooting a water cannon at active building targets, using a gimbal-mounted laser pointer, by dropping water directly through active rooftops, using 25mm balls, or by clearing away burning trees, using downwash from the drone's rotors. While the AVR drone is occupied in the burning community, the support crew will be headed towards the dormant side of the valley for some fire prevention tasks that will help fight the fire when Phase 2 is reached. Sphero Minis, acting as firefighters, can be delivered to the dormant side's forest, where they will be able to clear trees and fight the fire directly. The Tello drone's mission is to fly autonomous recon paths, discover which fire spread paths can be blocked, and land on top of a high-rise building to communicate this back to the team. The rover vehicle can use this information to clear away burning debris, dig a trench, and block the fire spread path. And finally, the water tower can dispense water into the reservoir to help refill the AVR drone. Phase 2 begins once the initial burn has been fully extinguished by the AVR drone. This time, the second community's fire score can be reduced or blocked before the AVR drone even arrives, thanks to the actions of the support crew during Phase 1. If the drone can fully clear both communities, then the final phase will be triggered. It's time for the end game, as the drone competes with randomly spreading fires until time runs out. The score at the end of the match is based on a team's ability to fight fires efficiently and effectively. The fire clear score represents a team's progress against the quickly spreading fire score. A fully cleared phase has a perfect fire clear score of 50 points. The damage prevention score represents how quickly the team has been able to react to the fire's progress. Before being touched by fire, a building has a perfect damage prevention score of 8. But once those points are lost to the fire, they cannot be won back. Teams can also receive points for completing support crew actions and bonuses for using autonomous programming. Be sure to read the game manual for all the details. Good luck, and we'll see you at Bell Valley.
Okay, so there is a lot going on in that game. There is a lot.
What do you think?
I thought that looks like so much fun. I wish I was still in high school so I could go and play this game.
It's a little bit different from anything we've ever done before in any of the programs REC Foundation or any other competitive robotics program has ever done. So a lot of work went into it. Incredible team. Yeah, I don't know. What questions do you have for me?
Well, there's a lot of complex aspects to this game. So can you talk a little bit more about the fire score?
Yeah, so I don't know if you caught during the video, so the general concept of the game, the overarching dynamic, we wanted to create this feeling of the fire being a character that you are competing against. Bell AVR is one team by themselves on the field, you're not head to head. So in this scenario, you kind of are head to head against the fire. And so we needed a way to represent that. And so the fire's intensity and progress throughout the field is represented by that fire score. Each building has 8 possible fire score units, represented by the windows all the way around the building. And basically you are constantly kind of in a tug of war against that fire score. Mm-hmm. And your fire clear score at the end of the match is directly kind of inversely related to how much progress you make against the fire.
there's almost like a sense of anxiety with it too, because the fire continues to spread throughout the game. So it makes it more intense because, like you said, it's like a character, you're fighting against this fire. And so that's a really cool aspect.
Yeah, no, that was actually part of you use the term anxiety or urgency. That was part of the inspiration for the damage prevention score as well. I don't know if you caught that in the video. So in addition to the fire clear score, which is just how many fires are put out, you also have that damage score or damage prevention score, which basically, if you sit there and wait for all the fires to light up and then go put them all out, you're not going to score as well as somebody who acts quickly and efficiently.
Well, that's such a neat and unique concept, and definitely not something that I've ever seen before. So, something else, can you talk a little bit more about the phases? So we have 3 separate phases for this game. Can you talk a little bit about the thought behind that?
Yeah, so the concept of the phases is kind of a way to help the fact that you have 7 vehicles that are supposed to all be operating, synchronously in tandem with each other. And so the phases were a way to kind of split the field so that the AVR drone, who is the star of the game, right? Everything revolves around the AVR drone. It can go get started on one side of the field while all the support crew is setting up the support actions on the other side of the field. This way, they kind of can do their own thing. And then once the drone is done, they basically switch spots. The drone switches over to the other side. Kind of have a thought that, and we'll see, of course, how it plays out over the season. But one of the intents behind that is that there will be a bit of a progression over the course of the season. One of the things that's always rewarding in other robotics competition games is the idea of incremental victories. So your first event of the season, you might just be happy with completing phase 1, or you might just be happy with reaching the end game. But then as the season gets further and further, the thought is by the end of the season, the end game will be like the prerequisite. Like that'll be where the game really begins. So we'll see how it goes, but that's kind of the mentality behind it.
I'm so excited to see how this game evolves throughout the season, how our teams evolve competing and playing this game as well, and their strategies throughout the whole upcoming season.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a game, and again, it may seem complicated at first. It kind of is. There's a lot of stuff going on. But the gist of it, again, if you just kind of keep thinking about it as figure out a way to manipulate these game objects, figure out a way to intake the balls and drop them, figure out a way to shoot the lasers at the targets, put out fires as quickly and efficiently as you can, and that'll be your best way to score highly. So, yeah.
Sounds like a great time. This field's kind of complicated, so how can teams expect to practice at home and prepare themselves for competition for this game?
That's a great question. So if you've opened your kit already, you might have noticed that you did receive a sample pack of the 25mm balls that are going to represent the water drops. So teams should be able to get started with some prototyping of mechanisms and learning how those balls interact. Same thing with the bean bags that represent the fiery debris. You should be able to have some of those. We'll also be releasing, at least it should be live now actually, full CAD files for the entire field, as well as a simplified version for teams to kind of, if you want to just build a plywood mock-up or have just the core, the key dimensions and the key points where you're supposed to play at. Both of those files are available in our Onshape repository. So that's kind of, we're hoping teams will, of varying resource levels, will be able to find whatever resources they need in order to get practicing.
Absolutely. That's awesome. All right, so there are a whole lot of aspects going on at the same time. There's a whole lot of robots on the field. How do teams communicate and work together during the match to coordinate that early phase into middle phase into end phase?
Yeah, that's going to be definitely a challenge for the teams. We always like to promote the fact that these types of competitions don't just teach hard engineering skills, it also teaches soft skills such as teamwork and problem solving and timeline management and all that fun stuff. So they will definitely have to work as a team together. All 7 students will be down next to the field all together. And basically, you're definitely going to need some communication between the drone, mainly between the drone pilots and the support crew operators, because one thing you'll note if you do go read the manual, the trigger for the next phase is when the drone completes its side of the field, when the drone clears all of the buildings on the side of the field. So if your drone pilot is not communicating with the support crew, they might end up out of sync going into the second phase. So you're dead on the money there about that's definitely, that communication is going to be play a big role.
So phases aren't determined by how far into the match you are time-wise, it's determined by how many objectives you've completed. So you could complete a match without even, going into the end phase, right?
Correct. Yeah, we kind of borrowed this concept from video games largely. It's the thought of an unlockable stage. So the thought being, if you're a team who isn't even going to make it to the end game, let's not overwhelm you all at once. Like, let's make sure you can complete phases 1 and 2 before even reaching the end game. Versus, and also in the flip side being true as well. We don't want a team to complete phase 1 in 30 seconds and then be sitting around twiddling their thumbs waiting for the next phase. So it's entirely dependent on how the team performs on the field and what they're able to do.
That's so exciting. Oh my goodness. I'm so pumped for this.
I hope the teams are excited too. It's been a fun game to work on, and I really cannot wait to see what teams come up with.
Wasn't that such a great time, you guys? I hope you had a great time. I know I had a great time. Please don't forget to check out the Bell AVR forum at bellavrforum.org. Also check out roboticseducation.org/Bell for more information on the Bell competition. Good luck, and we hope to see you at Bell Valley.